Hello and welcome to the Engerati studio here at eMart, and I'm joined now by Mike Denny from BritNed. And Mike, first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
And thanks for making the time to be with us today. And just before we start exploring some of the issues, can you just tell us a little bit about BritNed and what you do there, and how BritNed also came about, because that's interesting and informs the later discussion.
Yeah, of course. BritNed is a joint venture. The two key shareholders are National Grid on the UK side and Tenant TSO on the Netherlands side. It's a non-socialised merchant interconnector between the Netherlands and the UK. It was completed in 2011. Go live was April 2011, and we offer to the marketplace explicit products, medium-term products to all companies within Europe who wish to trade on the interconnector. My role within BritNed is the European account manager. I joined BritNed 18 months before go live, when it was an engineering project. So the role I had was transitioning that over from engineering project into a commercial business.
And in your description, you mentioned it's a non-socialized, and when we're talking off air, and you said that's the business model. Can you just explain that just a little bit more?
Yeah, non-socialized means essentially that if we, as a business operating in the markets, if we do not make any profit, or if we're making a loss, then costs cannot be socialized or passed down through the consumers in each country. So we're totally independent.
So you have to bear it effectively.
We have to bear it, yes.
Yeah. And so when you look at that, and we talk a lot about interconnectors, and a lot of commentators say quite rightly that the more interconnectors we have within the European system and so on, because at the end of the day we also need to physically shift the electrons and so on, the more resilient the market will be. Where do you see the role of interconnectors? Is it simply that, by connecting things up more, we build more resilience, or do you see different functions as well?
Well, the interconnector has a role to play. It technically facilitates trade. BritNed does not trade. We actually facilitate the trade. It goes into the UK from Europe. Most of the flows at the moment now are going into the UK for various reasons. But if you look at the trichotomy, security of supply, emissions, and price, we can get green energy from Europe into the UK, or vice versa, very quickly. So the interconnector has a role to play. It's instantaneous. The capacity is there. We offer our products which are flexible, and we also offer amounts of capacity for the intraday market. So we hold back a percentage at the day-ahead stage, which goes into the intraday to keep the liquidity in that market.
So I find that concept fascinating from a point of view of what we're trading in, trading in electrons, and how that is then manifested into the trading market. So how do you see, what is the role of the interconnectors within the trading market? Is it to provide the capacity? Is it or is it? And you mentioned liquidity, or is it all of those things? How do we mesh this together?
Well, it's optionality. If you're a generator, if you're a consumer, it opens up the markets physically, because there is a physical connection between mainland Europe and the UK. So for trading purposes, it just opens up a new market. If you're a generator, it gives optionality. If you've purchased capacity long term on the interconnector, that enables you to manage your assets a lot more efficiently. So, as I said before, we facilitate trade, but we also offer optionality to energy companies and trading companies throughout Europe.
And this may be a little bit of a naive question on my part, but what is the business model around interconnectors? Because at the end of the day, you've got to build this thing, right? So how does all of that work? I mean, because you must be much like any other infrastructure project, when you go out and look for funding, you must need to be able to go and say, right, oh, well, this is the type of returns we can get. And how does that play in the market? I'm asking about 5 questions in one go, but let's stick with the first one.
Okay. Well, they are expensive to construct. The 2 key shareholders on BritNed were Tenant. They constructed the Norwegian cable. That's a socialised Norned. And National Grid had completed Basslink, which was the Australian interconnector between Tasmania and mainland Australia. So the expertise was there. What drives the business is you need a market spread or an arbitrage, but you need a price differential. So a lot of analysis was done on what the 2 markets would look like over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And if the business model looks like it could stack up, then obviously the investment is made, and you build the interconnector. I have to say the 2 key shareholders invested in BritNed. There was some funding, a small amount of funding from the European Investment Bank, but most of the funding was from the two key shareholders.
And they clearly saw, like, hang on a minute, this can actually help our other core business, which is managing the distribution networks and the transmission networks within the...
Yeah, of course, it gets back to that optionality side of things and optimization. You can use all the trading terms you wish to use, but effectively it gives that extra dimension to trading within Europe.
So when I then bring it down to, you're here at an event like EMART, and you clearly want to have a dialogue and influence traders as much as everybody else here does. What are the types of conversations you're having with traders? What do you need them to do for you to help? So I'm trying to push deeper into how interconnectors work within this market.
Well, first and foremost, as a merchant interconnector, you're only as good as the customers you have trading on your interconnector.
Right.
We cannot socialise them losses, or if we're not market facing with our products, then we've nowhere to go to recuperate that cost. So these events are very important to us. We came here in 2010, not here but at an EMART event to launch BritNed. We meet our clients here. We look at shaping our products via the clients. So if the market changes due to regulation or due to what the traders or our clients wish to see, then we're flexible in our products. We introduce a product which is long. We have long weekend products, for instance. We have annual auctions, quite a regular amount of annual auctions for 2016. We're looking to launch our 2017 products. And that's slightly different to anyone else in the market because they are not merchants, as the model BritNed is.
And I suppose with that side of things, what other people is in terms of bringing liquidity into the market, you need to attract some of these sort of high power traders and things like that who can actually back things up. I would imagine you don't want a big fragmented approach. You want to do this with a discrete set of products that, like you say, are designed for what the market wants.
To accede to the BritNed access rules, it's 100% open access. So if any company wishes to register with BritNed, if they meet that criteria, then we treat the big 6 just as well as we treat the small companies who are just starting out. So we have quite a cross-section of clients that trade on BritNed, and they range from banks right through to very small generators to companies who manage portfolios in Europe. So to satisfy all of that, you need to have a cross-section portfolio of products. So we interface with the clients on a regular basis, and that's one of my key roles within BritNed. And we find that this event primarily is very good just for us to connect in Europe. People can come up to the stand, discuss things on a one-to-one basis, and meet the rest of the operational team.
And just what you just mentioned in that capacity, as we're sort of coming to the end of our time here, are you seeing a different type of client emerging? Because in some of the other areas that we cover, we're starting to see some very novel and I use the word utilities loosely. I think it's one that is past its sell-by date, but we're seeing companies like which are essentially aggregators, but they're acting like utilities. Are you starting to see these new actors come into play, and work with you as well?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
We are. It's common knowledge in the marketplace. Some of the banks now who were big traders on energy, now they're moving away from that on power. Smaller companies are taking up, are backfilling that. So we're seeing some of the larger banks, European and global banks, moving away from power trading. But then we're seeing small companies that have some of the ex-traders for the banks are now in
And they're
smaller
much more
companies.
agile, and yeah.
They're more agile and they can move a lot quicker, and they're coming into the market.
And just to finish off, if I don't know, you may not have it. It's like having been in the business and at the core of the business, what do some of the sort of people who are starting to trade in this market or exist that are the most surprising to you? That where you would have thought, 5 years ago I would have never thought this type of organization could exist or be playing with us?
Well, I mean, that's quite a big question. There's a number of players now we're seeing coming into the market who are portfolio managers. So a number of very small generators within Europe, they're actually managing that portfolio. So they may have a number of 50 or 60 or 70 clients, and they're aggregating that and managing it actively. We're seeing them being more proactive on trading on interconnectors now.
So it really is that fragmentation that it sounds like there's like an explosion of people who are working in this market.
It is. I wouldn't say that covers all.
Yes.
Because you still have the big generators who require interconnection.
Well, they can't go anywhere, right? They need it. Yeah.
So we have that, but it's quite refreshing to see young, new startup companies matching the criteria required to trade on the interconnector, coming in and then actively trading on the interconnectors.
Excellent, Mike. And on that note, we have come to the end of our time. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you as well for watching. And many more interviews from eMart, but we're getting to the close of the day today. So apologies for some of the clanking. They're clearing up the lunch.